Do you ever ask yourself how you can make a change, how you can make a difference, but you don't have the necessary tools or ideas to bring your ideas forward, but you don't know where to start? I had all these questions when it came to me trying to figure out a topic that I am passionate about, which is climate migration. It wasn't until I did a research study during my master's on the impacts climate change has in the Great Lakes region between Canada and the US that I found this newfound passion. What was found from the study was how in the next couple of years, thousands of people will have to migrate to the Great Lakes region between Canada and the US. But you're probably wondering, can this ever impact me? The answer is yes, it can. It's already impacting us everywhere. According to the World Bank, over 71 million people in Bangladesh have been displaced because of climate change as of 2022. That's the size of France today. That's a very large number. Then, according to the University of Wollongong, Australia, an average of 25 million residents in the Pacific Island regions have been displaced because of climate change. We may not think the climate migration is happening right here in North America, but that's far from the truth. From the wildfires in British Columbia to the orange smoke in New York are just some examples of how climate migration is impacting us today. From the research study I presented to you, to the facts I showed you, has inspired me to become a lifelong activist in this space. I would like to stress, being an activist in this space is not easy. It's about what tools you're given and what you do with those tools to create impact. So, what is climate migration? Climate migration is the impact climate change has on the migration of people. That can be in areas of the world where there's low-lying tides, like the Pacific Islands, or in parts of the world, like Indonesia, which are having issues mitigating climate change, which are causing people to migrate internally. Climate migration, it's not just about the definition, but the impacts it's having on all of us. According to the UN Refugee Agency, an average of 21.5 million people have been displaced because of climate change between 2008 and 2016. That number is expected to surge to 1.2 billion in the next couple of years by 2050. That's a very large number, which goes to show why you need to pay attention to climate migration and understand it. Climate migration is already happening right here in Canada. From the wildfires in British Columbia to the rising sea levels in Nova Scotia to extreme temperatures in Ontario are just some examples of how climate migration is impacting us today. You're probably thinking, we must be all doomed, right? Well, there's a solution. It's called activism. Activism is about making change. That can be from signing a petition, attending a rally, or writing a letter to your local city councilor, and much more. You all remember Greta Thunberg, right? A Swedish climate activist back in 2018 when she went in front of Swedish Parliament demanding for urgent climate action. It sparked a wave of protests across the world. Then there were the climate protests. We were in 100 countries, where more than 50,000 students walked out of their schools also demanding for urgent climate action. I'm not saying to the next Greta Thunberg or walk out of your schools. I'm saying with little actions lead to bigger impact in the climate migration space, which is something all of you can do. But the question is, where do I even start? I was scared, nervous, afraid when I wanted to get started. But it wasn't until I started bringing myself out there, networking, and joining events I thought I was getting somewhere. Some of the ways I want to show that I was passionate about this space and I want to make a name for myself was by doing a research study on the impacts climate change has in the Great Lakes region between Canada and the US, joining the Migration Youth and Children Platform, MYCP, Climate Mobility Team, and being part of the official UNFCCC Young Migration Climate Change Working Group. Through these roles, I was able to network, put on events, and workshops. It was by allowing my activism journey to flow that I learned all that I can about this topic in activism, which is something all of you can do. From these examples, you can see how powerful activism is. and why is it so vital for you to become activists in this space and understand. I'm going to share with you some of my tools in activism for you all to become activists. When it comes to educating yourself, that can be from reading a book or watching a video, talking to your community, asking them what they know about climate migration, what they think about it, sharing your projects online, that could be via LinkedIn or social media or Instagram, and last but most importantly, using your voice. Your voice has the power to create change and impact in the climate migration space. But the question is, how do I know what strategy is more challenging than the other, which one's better, and which one creates more impact? Well, let me tell you from my own experiences. When it comes to educating yourself, I wasn't sure where to start. It wasn't until I did a simple Google search that I learned all that I can about climate migration. There was so much knowledge for me to see, but it wasn't until I actually started gravitating towards different topics like human mobility and displacement that I started educating others on those topics, which is something you can do to make that effective strategy, picking what you're interested in to overcome that challenge. Then there's talking to your community. I wasn't sure what community I wanted to talk with. But it wasn't until I actually started, taking the knowledge I learned about climate migration and sharing it with my friends and families that we all came together and learned a lot and had conversations about it. That strategy is effective because you're educating others on the topic, but also learning new insights about it. Then there are sharing your projects online via social media or Instagram. When it comes to sharing your projects, I thought what I had to offer wasn't meaningful. It wasn't until I started seeing other posts, like who was impacted by climate migration directly, or who were experts in the field, or who knew more about it than I did. So I just started posting, and people started coming up to me saying they were very inspired by my posts, and they liked the knowledge. That's an effective strategy because you're putting yourself out there and connecting with others, but it can be challenged because it can be intimidating. A way to overcome that challenge is by coming together and understanding the knowledge that you have to gain is needed in this space. And last but most importantly, using your voice. So I got invited to the Global Forum for Migration and Development, GFMD, last year on behalf of the NYCP. I was in a room full of so many stakeholders who knew more about migration than I did. It wasn't until I made my statement on the impacts climate change has on migration of youth that I felt really good about myself. People came up to me saying that speech was very good, but using your voice is powerful and can be effective, and a way to make that effective is believing in yourself and being proud. Now that you know more about the impacts of the activism strategy, which one's better than the other, what does this all mean for the future? Well, in the next couple of years, we may all have to migrate because of climate change, which is why it's so vital for you to become activists in this space that can lead to long-term policy solutions for the future. It's up to you what you do with these activism strategies in the climate migration space or any space you're in. Remember, your voice and actions have the power to create change. Your activism journey starts now. Thank you.